Blessed be the Lord my strength, who teacheth my hands to war and my fingers to fight. This is Global Great Awakenings TV.com on, well, we are on a Wednesday with the great Mike Harris. We have missed you, Mike. We have been anxious to get your brilliant intelligence analysis of the world, to get your briefings, because there's so much happening, so much going on. So, Mike, I'm going to hand it to you as if you were giving a briefing to the president and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the same time about the assessments, the world assessments, what is going on from an American patriotic point of view. What should we know about? What is occurring in the world? And, including domestic traitors and what their activities are. Because I think we're entering that phase where domestic traitors, domestic enemies, and the real patriots, the real military, we're seeing a tear apart, a separation happening. So, Mike, as if you were in a meeting with the National Security Council, Joint Chiefs of Staff, what is your briefing on the state of the world? Go ahead, Mike Harris.
Well, what the word you want to use is bifurcation. We're bifurcating into two different societies here, two different camps, two different armies, if you will, because you've got the patriots who like this country, love it, and then you've got the treasonous, traitorous communists who want to take us down and change us into something that is not part of our social contract, against our will. So that's the word that I like for that, is bifurcate. It's a good word. It's it really nails the situation. The first thing I want to start out with is the situation in Lebanon, and particularly talking about the issue with the pagers, the walkie-talkies, the solar panel arrays, not the arrays, but the battery, that stores the energy for them, as well as the electric bikes. So the news media has been pushing this story that they hijacked the manufacturing process somehow of this company in Hungary, and they put an explosive compound within the pagers. Well, I'm sorry. That doesn't make sense. I've worked in electronics my entire life. And inside of a pager, inside of a cell phone, inside of a walkie-talkie, there isn't enough volume, free, unused volume in there to put explosives in there. It just doesn't exist. And if you would go out and buy a pager or take apart a cell phone or take apart a walkie-talkie, I mean, go out and buy one of those cheap Baofeng ones. You can get them on Amazon. They're like, $49. Take it apart. There isn't enough room. Now, what they were saying is that they put up to 5 grams of an explosive in there. They didn't define the explosive, but let's assume it's a C4 or a Simtex type. Something along those are very compact.
I was told Petin.
Well, Petin is of the same family as C4 is. It's in the same family. So if you look at C4 itself, 1 gram of C4 takes up 1.07 cubic centimeters. You multiply that by 5. So now you've got 5.35 cubic centimeters within a pager or a walkie-talkie. I'm sorry, there just simply is not enough space for it. What probably happened, and like I said, there needs to be some research in this, but it is my theory, I qualify it as a theory, as an opinion, that they detonated the lithium batteries in the pagers themselves, because these pagers did not take double A's. They did not. I did the research on that. These were lithium-ion pagers that you could put into a charger. So let's look at the bigger implication of this. And the reason they're telling you that it was an explosive is because they don't want all of the Western people to panic and start ditching their cell phones and never buying another one. They don't want you ditching your Tesla car. They don't want you ditching your laptop computer, any of these things that have lithium-ion batteries. Because if they've cracked the code and if they can at will detonate lithium-ion batteries, Apple stock is going to be in the toilet tomorrow. as well as Google on their Android products, as well as Dell computers and Apple, all of it. I mean, anybody who makes modern electronics that depends on rechargeable batteries in any form that are lithium ion, their stock is going to tank. And so, meanwhile, you're walking around with cell phone here in your pocket, and if they've got the ability to blow up 3,000 people who are targeted in Lebanon, they certainly have the ability to blow up anybody here. All they need is your phone number, and they can send in the code, and your cell phone can explode on the spot. Your laptop can explode. What is this going to do to air travel? I mean, think about the implications here of why they want you to believe it was an explosive and not a software a malware that causes these things to overheat and explode. Remember back when these kids were getting the little scooter things a couple of years ago, they're under the Christmas tree plugged in all night, and they'd blow up and burn the house down? That's what's happening. That is the issue here. These lithium ion batteries have an instability in them that somehow our beloved Israelis have figured out how to weaponize this. And they obviously have back doors built into them. And so that's how this was done. I mean, people need to realize this. And really, this now has become an explosive device. And, people really ought to get serious about how they communicate. You may want to get your old landline back. Find some other way to go about things, because as this, see, they can keep it secret for a while. And like I said, look at how much money BlackRock has invested, Vanguard has invested in Apple and Dell and, all of these huge electronics companies. And think about how much they'll lose if the word gets out that this is what they've done, this is what they're doing, and that every person who has one of these devices is suddenly got a bomb in their house, has got a bomb in their shirt pocket, got it's
a grenade.
Essentially, yes, a grenade, essentially a grenade, a personal grenade just for you. And think about what the implications of this could be if we have a civil war in this country. Think about this: if the guy standing next to Donald Trump, suddenly his cell phone blows up, because they've got his number and they can detonate him right next to Trump or anybody. I mean, anybody out there. I mean, pick somebody out of the Patriot movement who you like, who you think is doing a good job. They want to shut Alex Jones up. They blow up his cell phone.
Yeah, Mike, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed the weapon system that is going to trigger the false flag attacks within the United States that they're going to blame on Russia or Iran or whatever. They're going to set. This was a beta test for the real test, the real theater of operation, which is going to be targeting the West. Because who better to panic than a people and a culture and a country that is addicted to the vanity of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and whose kids, stare into the phone with their thumbs flickering. What better culture to have that kind of instantaneous shock and awe than America, than the Western society? The Middle East can survive this, but the West couldn't, because we're not.
Well, think about this. You've got some congressman, okay, from East Idaho, who the hell knows where he's from, but he's a Republican. He's really being staunch and really arguing with them about no, I'm not going to support Israel, or no, I'm not going to support this bill, or no, I'm not going to, whatever he's opposing that they want him to go along with. His kid's sitting there playing on his cell phone. It blows up. Now the kid's missing both hands, or is worse, burned or dead. Just think about the control over people that this will give them, and they have it. And I'm sorry, this is not the Iranians. This is not the Iranians. This is not the Russians. We know who did this. This is a Jewish thing. This is an Israeli operation. They did it. And you ask us, who benefits? Why now? Well, they're getting ready to go to war against Hezbollah in the north. And so they wanted to take out 3,000 Hezbollah fighters or anyone near them. So they took them out.
And they're going to force the United States to give them support, cover, and aid and abet their war by this methodology you're describing.
Yeah. So really think about this. This is how this works. This is what it is. This is what they've done. So now we as a people have to reconsider what we're doing with these cell phones and what we're doing with our laptops and other things that are battery dependent. I mean, laptops may become a thing of the past. We may all be on desktop models again. We can't take these risks of these devices that can be detonated remotely, just by entering some code to them at will. This is, but think about all the implications. I mean, how are you going to fly on an airplane? Do you want to fly on an airplane if somebody's got a cell phone or a laptop with them? I don't. Do you want to bring one of those into your house? I mean, I'm telling you, the implications of this are enormous.
Well, let's think about that too, because the Israelis are very good at these sort of operations. What's to stop them from shorting the stock of a variety of companies that are related to this kind of industry?
You mean like airline stocks the day before 9/11?
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing but so far they're protecting their investments because they, if they've got a larger kill list out there, if that is the black swan they want to bring to the United States, and you look at this and you look at everybody's got their Facebook up there, everybody's got it's connected to your phone, it's connected to your computer, it's connected to your laptop. If you're putting memes up they don't like, can they get to you? Can they backtrace you? You bet they can. You betcha. And so this exposes anyone who's on their enemies list. You've already identified yourself by being on Facebook, by what you post. You've already done that. You've already, told them who you are and what you believe, because you think you're protected. You think you have free speech, and you think these devices are safe. Well, I'm going to argue with you. They are not safe. These are. We have seen this in real time on a real battlefield that Israel used to soften up Hezbollah before they're getting ready to attack them. So that's my pitch on the electronics right now. That's.
Well, I think that's the most pressing story, issue, and prediction that we have coming is the transformation of this phase one, where the phones and the pagers and these lithium batteries have exploded. It's been successful. They're now targeting Western leaders for the purposes of provoking and extorting them to their broader Middle Eastern war, providing them the weapons and the nukes and whatever they want, using this extortion model, and shorting the stocks and shorting all of for whether it's airline, Apple, computers, cell phones. I mean, that's what it would do if I was a demonically possessed, bad, Likudnik Israeli Zionist. I would look at what companies would drop in value that people couldn't use anymore with cell phones. The cell phone companies themselves, the computer companies themselves, and the airlines.
AT&T, Verizon, all of them are going to go in the garbage.
Yeah.
They're going to go in there. I mean, you want to bring on the Greater Depression? That would be a way to wipe out trillions of dollars of value overnight, and really break the U.S. economy.
Yes,
it would break the back of Wall Street if that's what you wanted to do. It's really quite a brilliant set of moves, but people on an individual basis need to be awake and aware that this damn thing's not safe.
Yeah, and look at the Apple phones. You wear the Apple phone on your watch or the Apple
on your wrist.
Yeah.
All of these things, lithium-ion batteries, brother. These are not safe. Now,
Well, we will see what your prediction comes true. I wanted to share a video real quick too, and I think that is.
When we
Go ahead.
video, when we come back, I want to come back more about Lebanon, because I want people to understand some things about it.
Okay, let's play the assessment first here. This is of.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has compared the carnage in Gaza to the apartheid his own country lived through. Speaking at the ongoing UN General Assembly session, he added that South Africans will not stand idly by while the Palestinians suffer.
It has been 11 months since the Hamas attack that killed 1,200 people and where hostages were taken. As South Africa, we have condemned this attack. In response, Israel embarked on an act of collective punishment in its assault on the people of Gaza. We South Africans know what apartheid looks like. We lived through apartheid. We suffered and died under apartheid. We will not remain silent and watch as apartheid is perpetrated against others.
And adding to that, President of South Africa has also recalled that 30 years ago, South Africa was born as a new nation and free from apartheid. He says it adopted a new constitution and its first election brought apartheid to an end, a system that this General Assembly declared to be a crime against humanity. He says if it was a crime against humanity then, it should continue to be crime against humanity even today, reiterating South Africa's call on the international community to stop Israel's torment of the Palestinian people and to ensure their protection in respect of international law and the binding measures of the International Court of Justice. When it comes to Africa, the conflict has made deep inroads into a continent traditionally to Moscow. RT senior correspondent Murad Gazdiev is in the embattled region with the latest.
Ukrainian defenses in the Donbass continue to crumble. The Russian Ministry of Defense has announced the capture of two further settlements, Grigorivka and Ostria, both situated just to the west of Donetsk city. But this is all against the backdrop of much worse news for Kiev, and that is the situation in Ugledar, a much bigger city, a city that has been dubbed a fortress due to its position on the heights surrounding lower land made up of high-rise apartment buildings, a city that was made for defense and which Russian forces have entered for the first time in more than 2 years since the start of this special military operation. After seizing land adjacent to it to the east and to the west, Russian troopers are now fighting for the high-rise buildings inside. That this is a nightmare scenario for Ukraine, which has come to see Ugledar as something of a symbol, a resistance symbol, and for the situation to deteriorate so rapidly is indeed for Ukraine very bad news, especially given how important the city is as a logistics hub for Ukraine, but also for Russia, because it'll allow Russia, which has forged a land route, a train route from the Russian mainland to Crimea, to also link southern Donbass with northern Donbass by rail, which will ease military operations, which will ease supply lines, and allow Russia to advance much more rapidly and with much greater efficiency than it has before. The Ukrainian establishment, as well as the Ukrainian Institute of War, are already preparing the Ukrainian public for the fall of the city, now saying that, it has lost its importance as a logistics hub due to the fact that many of the outlying roads and routes are already controlled by Russia. Indeed, on Ukrainian television.
All right, I was trying to get a little bit more of that, Mike, but I'll hand it to you on the Ukrainian assessment. Essentially, it looks like the Ukrainian forces in the whole area of Donbass are increasingly crumbling. and Zelensky's losing all of his political momentum. He's come over to the United States. He's went up to a Democrat governor in Pennsylvania, Shapiro, another Jewish Zionist governor, who was signing these artillery shells as if they were Hollywood, rewards and statues. And winter is just around the corner, and Ukraine has no power stations, essentially. What do you think the assessment of Ukraine will be? And let me just top it off by saying, I have difficulty believing and understanding why a single railroad or airport or travel zone or operation even still exists in Ukraine. How can anything exist that the Russians aren't blowing up with regards to weapons coming into Ukraine from any other country? It would seem to me they should have a complete no-fly zone around Ukraine. No airports, no planes, no trains, no trucks. Nothing comes in anywhere in Ukraine. And why isn't Ukraine overflowing with Russian spies who can radio, hey, there's a truck with a HIMARS truck on the back of it coming down Maple Street, and they just blow up every single one. Hey, there's a C-17 aircraft coming in with weapons. How can this still be allowed, if not gross incompetence by the Russians, unless there's some strategic wisdom? But Mike, I'll hand it to you.
Well, if you're a spy and you're Russian, even though you speak the same language as the Ukrainians do, if you're an able-bodied male, they're going to pick you up off the street and push you on the front line, no matter what side you're on. So I don't look for much out of the men as spies in Ukraine. However, that doesn't mean that women couldn't be used as spies to collect information and targeting and other things like that. And really, I am quite puzzled as well. I made a prediction a few weeks ago about Odessa, and that that Russia should feint while the Ukrainians were moving into Kursk. They should take Odessa.
Yes.
And cut off that port. Well, that's still in play. Russia is still going to make that move. That's coming. But why the rails are allowed to continue to move, I don't have a clue. That strikes me as a no-brainer. Take those out immediately, because if you look at World War II and how the Allies targeted the railways to stop commerce, and it worked. That's why the people were starving and had cholera within the camps, was because they couldn't get supplies to feed their own troops, much less get supplies to feed their the prisoners that they had. So I really don't understand if there's a bigger game behind it. I don't see it, because if they wanted to bring Ukraine to its knees, that would be anything coming out of Poland, anything west of Ukraine. Just shut it down. Don't let it enter.
That should have been shut down within months of the beginning.
Day two of the special military operation. Day two, it should have been shut off.
Yep.
So not day one, day two. But like I said, it's way overdue. I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish there on that issue, because that is what is keeping the Ukrainian war effort alive.
Yes.
Now, the only other thing I can think of is that they're trying to get all of the Nazi supporters out of Western Ukraine in the army and killed off, so that they can rebuild the whole country. Like I said, I'm guessing here on this, because I don't have enough intel. I don't have enough information to make a sound decision. But if they really want to wipe that out, are there still Nazi elements at work in the Ukrainian army? Yes, there are. Why are they holding them back? Why aren't they putting them into the battle? Why aren't they being utilized to their fullest potential? So are they dragging this out, trying to win the war of attrition? You look at Ukraine, 60 million people before the war. Russia, 150 million people. They're 2.5 times the size. So they can win, and the Ukrainians are dying at 7-to-1 ratios against the Russians. So Ukraine is getting pretty lean on manpower, to the point where they're openly recruiting mercenary forces from overseas. And that's the trouble with mercenaries. Mercenaries go and they don't do it for the glory; they do it for the money. They want to be able to live long enough to go out to someplace and spend it afterwards.
Well, see, and forgive me for interjecting, but that's part of the whole psychological warfare plan. It's very easy to intimidate by saying, if you're a mercenary and you're coming over from Syria or France or anywhere else to hurt a Russian, kill a Russian, when we find you, we're going to kill you, and we're going to find out who your parents are, who your wife and your children are, and they're going to be dead too. That's how you stop 50%, if not more, of the mercenaries from coming and joining the ranks of Ukraine. Is we'll hunt you down, we'll send our spies, we'll get our people, and we'll destroy your families. If this is war, that's how you fight it. It's not a patty cake game. Well,
the thing that I've learned, from my experience in Syria, where they were bringing mercenaries in to fight the war against the Syrian Arab army to try to topple the Assad government, is if you cut off their supplies and their food and their paychecks for 2 or 3 weeks, these guys walk home.
Yeah,
they leave, they bail. If they're not getting fed, if they're not getting armed, if they're not getting what they need to sustain themselves in the field, there's no point in staying in the field. Let's go home. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what needs to happen here. But the U.S., our misguided government, keeps funneling more and more money in, and they're approving another $6 billion package this week to go to Ukraine, which is I think it's just foolish. I mean, we can't afford to pay our own bills at home. Our government is suffering, and our people are suffering. And we can't afford, to put that $6 billion, put it into Social Security trust fund or something, instead of giving it to these Ukrainian idiots. But like I said, our government doesn't care about us as a people. They only care about their own goals. And our government has been hijacked. We're no longer a democratic republic. We're no longer a Republican form of government. We're working for the oligarchy. We are governed by the donor class, if you will. And that's how it lays out there. That's it.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that should be done if you had an intelligent psyop component. You get a pallet and load it with dollars or things that look like dollars, and you make a video like they've made in the past of various special effects, and you say, "Thank you, America, for all your dollars coming to Ukraine. We just captured this C-17 full of pallets of cash. Look how huge it is. You fill a swimming pool full of $1,000 bills or $100, whatever it is, and you light it on fire, and you show that to the Congress and the American people. Put that up on YouTube and Instagram and elsewhere, and see what happens. These are the shocks. That's why, of course, they're trying to shut down RT and shut down Sputnik, because they're telling the truth while the West is trying to create this narrative, and that's where we can pivot to, Mike. Ukraine is becoming the wind in the sail of the American ship of police state, the American ship of tyranny, the American ship of suspension of rights, violation of the Constitution, violation of the Republican form of government, putting Kamala Harris in without any kind of an election of the Democrat National Committee, keeping out Kennedy, just the West is descending more and more into tyranny, which these cell phone attacks in the U.S. will quicken, advance, and prompt more Gavin Newsom police state sort of tactics. But what is the condition of the American police state? And do you think the American people, for the most part, are just going to go along with a whimper like a bunch of zombies marching and, consumed about nothing but serving their stomach? I mean, that Walking Dead really is instructive of the value system of the zombie hordes, if you will. They don't do anything other than eat, right? That's what a lot of Americans do, and Westerners. But what is the state of the American continent, Mike?
Well, it's pretty lame. I still want to reserve time and go back to the situation in Lebanon, because I think that's critical.
Sure.
But I'll answer this question first. People are only about 3 meals away from getting really ugly. When the food supply runs out, when it's not available, when the transportation lines shut down. Your grocery store allegedly has 3 days worth of food in the back, but we've all seen under hurricane conditions where that's wiped out in 8 hours, and there's nothing left because people, they don't grab a gallon of milk in a loaf of bread. They grab 5 gallons of milk and 10 loaves of bread and run to the door so they have something in their hand, that they're not left empty. Well, meanwhile, the guy, 10 people behind him gets nothing. And so, the American public is, like I said, 3, maybe 4 meals away from turning and getting really violent, really hostile. And not just with, the quote authorities, whether it's the police or anyone else. They're 3 or 4 meals away from getting hostile with each other. Because, if you're the prepper guy and you've got 2 years worth of food, and somebody who knows you have food shows up at your door, he's going to want in. Hey, my kids are hungry. Let me in. And, like I said, anybody who's in the city, you got to be crazy to live in the cities these days. You have to be crazy, particularly if you're a white person, because they're coming for it, or Asians too. I mean, Asians are smart. They're another group out there that is going to be targeted because they're smart, they're frugal, they plan. That's one thing that the minorities in our country, the blacks and the browns, they don't plan that well. They don't make long-term plans. They don't lay in supplies. And this goes back to our heritages. I mean, if you lived in a northern latitude and your winter was 4 or 5 months long, you'd better have enough stuff saved up from the summer and the fall harvest in order to get through the winter. Otherwise, you're going to get real skinny, or you're going to figure out which one of your kids you like the least, because you're not going to be able to feed them all. And
I thought you were going to say I thought you were going to say they become your future food ration, but I won't go that. I won't go that, Stephen King.
That's something that takes a lot more than just
that's
a
Donner
winter.
Party level, yeah.
Yeah, but the blacks and the browns coming from more temperate climates, around the equator, where the seasons are stable, and every season's a growing season. In fact, I was talking to a guy who lives in Singapore yesterday. I had an office in Singapore for 14, 15 years. And we were talking about it. He goes, yeah, the weather's the same every day. I said, yeah, it is. It's a great growing season. I mean, the bananas are always ready to pick. The mangoes are always ripe. There's always something there. So you didn't have to plan that way. You didn't have to put aside enough grain and lentils and split peas to have something to eat in the cold winter months. Because just go outside. There's something else out there. Just forage a little further if you have to.
Yeah.
And
their homogeneity leads to societal harmony in the Asian cultures, in the Asian language.
It's just so easy for people in the tropical climates to get food because the growing season is 12 months a year, whereas in the northern, extreme north and the extreme southern, latitudes, it's you've got a plan. You've got to save food to get through the winter. You've got to have something stored, and so it's a different mindset that genetically for what is it, 100, 500, 1,000 generations more that the people, white people who live up north, have had to live with. That's been their reality of survival. That's never been the reality of survival living in a tropical climate near the equator. If you're black or a brown, it just doesn't even occur to you. Why would I have to save food? How do you do that? What food should I save?
Well, and see that it opens up too, and these are important principles to recognize, because in a sense, they're sort of like light sticks on the path as darkness descends around the states. And I would say the states in America, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, of course, the states that have accents, Southern accents, have Southern culture, have hundreds of years of identity that is separate from the totality of the United States of America. That's a bonding agent. That's a solidifier. That's the sand that keeps the cement of personality and identity together. The South has that. The mountainous regions of the Dakotas, the cold weather areas, a very similar spirit of almost a tribal unity exists. It doesn't exist in California, doesn't exist in Oregon, and some pockets in some places, yes, but for the most part, a lot of the country is the whole East Coast, Maine, Boston, Vermont, and all that stuff. It still is bizarre to me. I grew up all my life in California. How those areas of the East Coast can be so freaking stupid and to vote Democrat and all of this other bullshit, given the child pedophilia and evil and warmongering that's the modern lingua franca of the Democrat Party. So the divisions within the United States are very important to understand, because those are your sanctuaries.
Well, you make some good points there, and about you look at Southern roots, and a lot of our country has become rootless. I grew up in Missouri. My family's lived here 9 generations now. I was the 7th generation, but I went off to college, and I never came back until there was a family emergency, and so I was gone for 50 years. And I didn't have anybody around. There's no one near me in my new location in Arizona, and so that's whereas people, other people who've lived here, the families lived here 200 years plus, and the same in the South, the same in the Northeast. Some people have deep roots, and other parts of America don't have those roots. California, in particular, because you brought it up. I mean, California really started to boom in the 50s and 60s, and it's never stopped growing. Mm-hmm. And success is what ruined California. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I have 2 other issues to talk about tonight.
Go ahead, fire away.
And one of them is I want to talk about Lebanon, and I want to talk about Hezbollah. I was in Lebanon in 2014 and again in 2015, and both of my tours there, if you will. I was interrogated by Hezbollah. It was like a friendly police interrogation, but me and a couple other guys in the room and me, and they were asking me questions, my passport, took my fingerprints, took my photograph, all this stuff, but wanting to know why I'm there and why are the guys that I was with, why are we here, what is our purpose? And so we explained all this to them. And the thing that you have to understand about Hezbollah, Lebanon has never invaded Israel. Israel has invaded Lebanon 3 times. Mm-hmm. The first 2 times they were defeated badly, the Lebanese were. Well, the 3rd time, Hezbollah exists, and Hezbollah managed to spank Israel and send them home. Mm-hmm. And so Hezbollah was formed not as a terrorist organization, but as a local militia to protect their homes, their businesses, their wives, their families, their friends, their way of life, to keep the Israelis out. That's why Hezbollah was formed. And because of the Zionist influence over our State Department and over our Congress, and our actually we're a Zionist occupied government at this point, because of that, we have labeled Hezbollah as a terrorist organization. Now, they go back to the Marine Corps barracks explosion. What was that back in? There was a Reagan administration.
1983. Yeah, the 83. Reagan.
Yeah. So that was an act of terrorism. That was an act of aggression against the United States. I absolutely agree with it. That it was. So, but we have to really temper our thinking about Hezbollah, because they're not all black, they're not all white, they're kind of gray, because they do have a mission, they do have things that are worthwhile that they want to do. It's the same like when I was talking to the Taliban. They had nothing to do with 9/11, and we were the occupiers in their country, and they're defending their country. And so if we reverse the roles, if we were being invaded from Mexico, would we form a militia because our army's getting its ass kicked to keep the Mexicans out? Would we do that to repel them? Yes, we would. If the Chinese came over here and occupied, everything west of the Rocky Mountains, would we fight them until we got the last man driven out? Yes, we would. We would do the exact same things these guys do.
Yep.
Now, do I approve of them? No, in no way, shape, or form. But I understand why they just want to be left alone. I understand that, and I think that's something that everybody needs to take into mind. But our TV networks, the mainstream media, pushes this terrorist analogy, and we all have to fight the war on terror because of 9/11, which was done by the Israelis. We all know that now. And they've played us like fiddles. They've played us like fiddles to get us up off the sofa, or to get our young men and young women out in the field, so they don't have to kill their own, don't get killed, ours get killed instead, fighting their war.
And let me put this little metaphoric image in your head, Mike. Israel is like the little Italian man playing the box, the wooden box, and we're the monkey. Actually, the pastors, the Christian pastors of America, are the little monkeys going up, grabbing coins and candy from kids and being the acrobatic entertainment. It is the Jewish, Zionist, Talmudist, demonic possessed monsters that are cranking the wooden box, and the American pastors are the little monkey, the Christian Zionists. And it's brainwashed a whole society. Charlie Kirk's and so many others. Candace Owens not. She's come out of it. They're under this hypnosis. And, you find agreement with them on domestic policy in certain respects. But then they go off the cliff in this delusional Israel. And it's like, are you a fool or are you a traitor? Because those are the only two options of definition when you go down this Israeli Zionist route. Go ahead.
No, that's a good metaphor, but I've got another one. Remember the movie with Mel Gibson? It was one of the Mad Max movies, Beyond Thunderdome.
Yes.
Remember the guy, Master Blaster? And
Yes.
That's who we had to go fight in the thing. And it's this big guy's like 7 feet tall and big and huge, must he wear the helmet? But he's got the little midget sitting on his back. The dwarf's riding him around, telling him what to do and how to do it. We're like the big dumb guy, and Israel is like the little dwarf riding on our shoulders, and we're being played. We're the muscle for the little dwarf asshole sitting on our back. So that's the analogy that I'll give. But
let me quicken too. If they think they can declare, oh, there's a war, their cell phones in America have blown up, we all have to go to war against Iran. Sign up now for the draft, or else we're going to sign you up by force. Do you see something like that happening? A, and B, do you see every American grandmother getting a slingshot or a rifle or a stone and fighting back, pushing back, and killing anyone that tries to come across and capture their sons? This is kind of what the redacted girls, the wife of whatever that guy's name is on Redacted, she was saying, last night. A vote for Democrat is a vote for war. They're going to be coming for you to bring your children and your girls to war. What are you going to do when they do that? I see that only going to, it's like what the Ukrainians are doing when they're forcibly recruited. They're not doing it as valiantly as Scotsmen perhaps would do it, but they're going to fight back and kill to say, no, you're not drafting my kids into a war. And if you try, you're all dead.
Well, Scott, the United States Army, the Sergeant Major of the Army made an announcement yesterday, the day before, that the Army is abandoning their DEI policies because they have been ineffective. The Army is finally come out with a change. Now the rest of the services need to follow the example.
Too late.
Well, it is. It's too late. But they're finally waking up a little bit. They're sobering up a little bit. But that's a good thing. But I think we can count on, because enlistment is so far down. I mean, each service is probably 40,000 recruits short every year since the Biden administration took over. And so they're going to have to go back to conscription, and they're going to have to start drafting people. And,
what do you think's going to happen, Mike?
Well, here's what happened last time. The political environment changed so much that they went to an all-volunteer army, a professional army. because they didn't want grandma in Omaha voting against them because they were going to continue the war effort, because grandma didn't want her grandson coming home in a box. See, that's the one thing I like mandatory service. I think it is a good thing.
Yeah.
But-
When you are facing enemies of the United States, we don't have any. This is convenience.
Let me finish, because it gives kids 2 years out of high school to grow up and mature. And like Switzerland and like Singapore, which I respect a lot as a country,
Sure.
Everybody has to do service. It's requirement. You have to do service, and you serve, and you go back until you're 40 years old. Then you're let off the hook. You don't have to do 2-3 weeks every summer or whatever. But that way, you've got a trained standing cadre. But you look at Singapore and you look at Switzerland. What do they have in common? They're both very small countries with limited population. So they have to have every man that's out there has had military training, knows how to use a rifle. Is he going to be as effective as a Delta Force guy? No, but he's going to be more effective than just a bunch of civilians who have no experience at all. And so I like the idea of this. I don't like it when they're positioning us to go directly into a war with another thermonuclear power like Russia or China.
But see, that's not going to happen. I want to get your opinion. My opinion is people are going to say no. And they will say, I will fight to the death to stop you from trying to force me into doing this, or my son, or my grandson, or my neighbor's son. I see the people of the country turning against any agent, any operative, any person, any agency that tries to forcibly recruit an American into this war, because this is not 1776. This is not 1941. Despite their lies and their media propaganda, which Trump has inoculated us from with the lying media and all of that, that has built up the antibodies of suspicion against the media. And of course, the Democrats have destroyed and ruined their reputation and their the boy that cries wolf. It's not going to happen, Mike, in my opinion. But what do you see happening because they think they can do a draft? What do you think?
They've done it successfully in the past. My father was a conscript in the Korean conflict. Okay, they conscripted him, and he had to go.
But it was a different time and a different culture.
And the same thing in Vietnam. It took 40,000+ deaths before they got to the 53,000 before people started getting upset enough about it to take to the streets. So can they do a draft? Yeah, they can. Is it going to flip a switch overnight and have people in the streets protesting? No. We're going to have to see another 50, 60, 100,000 kids come home in body bags.
Yeah, I don't believe that, though, Mike. Do you really believe that would happen?
No, I do, because I've seen it in the past, Scott. I've lived through it. I mean,
but don't you think? But don't you think? I understand what you're saying in the past. I understand 1950 and 1960 and the Vietnam. I understand all of that. I understand the difference of viewing us versus them. But in 2024, it's like V for Vendetta, and I'm not trying to be an alarmist or a revolutionary. I just sense a combination of hyper narcissism, hyper selfishness, hyper fear, a lack of rootedness, like you said. Some people have deep roots, some people don't. There is a lack of connection and investment and appreciation for America, for anything about America, our heritage. It doesn't exist anymore. And if it doesn't exist, there's no magnetic pull that are going to pull people in the direction you're describing.
Well, let me interject here. And that is, the difference between then and now is that we were still reveling in what we perceived as a victory of World War II. We thought we were the good guys. And we thought by going to Korea to stop the communists, we're going to Vietnam to stop the communists, that we were doing the right thing, that we were doing the good thing. Now we don't see that. We don't have that feeling that the United States is the good guys anymore. And in fact, people believe the United States is the global villain, and that we're the bad guys, and we're going to go out and push this.
And that's
Now,
not based on feeling. That's based on historical
I
evidence.
understand, but that's what our modern the youth of today base their decision process on, is on more on feelings, less on logic. And
Propaganda.
you look at how we look today. These kids are spoiled. They're indulged. They're going to say, hey, screw you. I'm not going to do push-ups. I'm not going to go walk 12 miles. I'm not going to. I don't care about how to fight.
I'm going into my safe space, Mr. Drill Sergeant.
That's what this generation looks like. I think that by pushing this progressive agenda all this time and weakening the American people at the core youth level, they've destroyed their ability to draw an army through conscription.
Absolutely.
At least they've damaged it. They've at least damaged their ability to draw an army, raise an army through conscription.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The salt has lost its savor. There's no sting left. The filings have lost their magnetism. You put a magnet in front of they don't move. There's nothing there. I would have fought if I was back in, the 1980s and Reagan said, if you're between the ages of 14 and 30, sign up, we're going to war. I would have been the first one that said, yep, I'm going. I loved Reagan. I loved America. My father, everyone, we're on board. We wouldn't need to have known we didn't have computers and cell phones and all this. But that same patriotic roar, which also they tapped into and abused in 2001, the Jewish Zionist, Project for a New American Century, the New World Order of 9/11. It existed in the 80s. It existed in 2001. It doesn't exist anymore. And it ain't coming back. I foresee the whole continent. Let me close it on this and hand to you to get your closing thoughts. I see the whole continental United States and the concept of the United States territorially completely dissolving like a sandcastle. You pull up the pail and the whole thing just crumbles flat, right? What you're going to see is the resurrection of city-states, independent republics. The Republic of the Midwest of America, South Dakota, North Dakota, Missouri, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Texas, beyond the republics of the South. Well, you did this before. It didn't work. Fuck you. We're doing it again because you people have lost your mind. Well, you've got to have wokeism and rainbow flags and gay clubs in your high schools, or else we're not going to give you Title IX money. Your money's worthless. The dollar's worthless. The only thing we have is the investment in our future through our young children. And we want them to get married and have children so we can maintain our civilization, our republic, without importing a bunch of cat-eating, Haitian voodoo-worshipping lunatics. All of the old past that existed for white culture, if you will, from 1776 until now, all of that is crumbling like a sandcastle. And what's going to emerge out of it is tribalism, and it's got to be ruthless and uncompromising. And I'll put the cherry on the sundae. Putin is inviting every intelligent, sane, traditional family values, marriage-loving, religious-loving person to come to Russia. Hey, if you don't like the rainbow flag, faggots, wokeism, eating bugs, every other bullshit with these homosexuals and the cutting off of breasts and all that, come to Russia. It's like the old Jamaican. Remember those old commercials? Come to Jamaica, come to Russia and find out. I mean, they ought to make it mockingly. Come to Russia and find out what a real woman is. Come to Russia, find what real man is. Come to Russia and find out what nature and good health and good food and good weather and all the pure things, the Wally world that America and the West has turned into. I think you'll have a massive brain drain if it continues this way, and America will lose all of its most productive citizens. Mike, I'll end it and hand it to you to get your thoughts.
All right, Scott. I'll take what you said at face value that the U.S. may dissolve, okay? But we've got other threats out there that are lurking to the north of us and the south of us. Mexico just elected a Jewish woman as their president, Sheinbaum. And if you follow the Mexican politics, 17 of the governors in the Mexican states are all Jewish now. They've elected a Jewish slate across the board. So Mexico has been seized by Zionism. And you look up north, we got Trudeau. And Trudeau is another socialist up there. He's on part of it. It's my theory that if the U.S. dissolves, that they're going to incorporate us from the North and the South into this North American Union that
Yes,
they've been
I agree.
angling for a long time. So I think that, whatever independent states or republics or city states, whatever that emerges, is going to have more than their hands filled with the New World Order coming in here, trying to make this the North American Union again. I think that is really something. And then that is a good justification for bringing in these 20, 30 million illegals they've brought in, because now they're at home. They live in the North American Union. I was born in Mexico, but I live in, Ohio now. It's all part of the same country. Look at this. Isn't this great? And that's what
They got cats on every corner. I don't have to hunt them. I just go out and catch the old lady's cats, and I have a little shish kebab.
Well, I've eaten some cat in my time, but that's a whole different story. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. You can't.
You did it with military face paint on. I have no doubt.
Anyway, that's what I think we're going to have to be aware of, is that our enemies to the south and to the north that want to take over the entire North American continent as a single entity. I think that's what we have to be aware of as we're going through this hard time where the American Republic is disintegrating and falling apart. They're going to be pressuring us into this North American Union. I think that's what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I agree with you. David Kinney, one of my close friends and attorneys, has said that, and he works very closely to a lot of these areas. The North American Union is their push. That's their agenda. And the independent states, independent republics of America, is going to emerge, because there are those of us who will die before we surrender to any form of tyranny or socialism. That's just what we are. It's part of our DNA. The Scottish, the Scandinavian, the Germanic-blooded, the Celtic, whatever you want to call it, that cold weather-blooded American patriotism with European stock, it doesn't yield to anybody. And that's a good thing. Sometimes you need the serpents to come upon you to resurrect your faith. So we'll see what happens. Mike Harris, always a pleasure, always a great honor. Thank you so much. And let me say too, for people to stock up on food and batteries and water, one of the other things people should stock up on is the Indian black salve. If you have cancer, leukemia, or lung cancer, or brain cancer, or anything like that, any kind of cancerous infection, the Indian black salve is the corrosive that you can take internally or externally that destroys cancer. Go to the destroy-cancer.com. You can see the video of what it does. You have it, get some. Get a few if you can for your friends and family. Because if things go down, if things stop, if there's all sorts of problems, that is the one supplement that you can depend on and you can barter with too. So anyone who has cancer or anything, these things can be very powerful as medicine to barter. Even though it's a natural supplement, it works. And I was a prime example. So go to the website and see with your own eyes. Go to destroy-cancer.com, and it's something important in these times, as well as knowing your community, knowing your individual tribes. We're also putting out the affidavit that people can get. We'll put it up on the website of greatawakeningstv.com, and you can always email us. This affidavit essentially says Kamala Harris is not a natural-born citizen. She's not qualified to be the president of the United States, and therefore no order or appointment that she makes will be respected. And any person in government that does not sign this affidavit, recognizing only a natural-born citizen can be president, is essentially committing treason, because you're recognizing someone who can't be president, someone who's not a natural-born citizen. So if you get the affidavit, if you have any other questions, you can email us. And pray for our health, because there are a lot of people in the Patriot areas that are coming under attack. A good friend of ours just passed away, very mysteriously, very suddenly. I won't go into too many details, but just pray for our health and our recovery, because we are coming under increasing attacks. But then again, the Lord says, rejoice when these things come upon you. Be not dismayed when tribulation comes upon you. Blessed be the Lord my strength, who teacheth my hands to war, and my fingers to fight. And no weapon formed against you shall prosper. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. No poison, no bullet, no radiation, no microwaves. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. We pray for this in Jesus' name. Amen. Mike, we'll see you next week. We thank you. We thank Tong, our wonderful producer, for having the patience to put us up there. And we thank you. We love your letters. They're very, very honorable. We love your comments. We read all of them. We may not respond to them because of a variety of reasons. We never let the bad guys know what we're thinking, but we thank you for your messages, and they're very, very precious to us.
Thanks,
God
LT.
bless you. We will see you next week. God bless. Thanks, Mike. Good night.